Your news, your views, your values. This is WMNF Tampa 88.5 FM.
WMNF's Tropical Heat Wave returns May 10th to the Cuban Club with an explosive lineup of artists from Cheo, the Black Honkies Band, Tribal Style, GA20, Chuck Prophet, and more. Dance under the stars, discover your favorite new band, and join thousands of music lovers for one epic night in Ybor City. Tickets at tropicalheatwave.org.
You are tuned to WMNF Radio 88.5 FM. This is the public affairs radio program called Community Speaks. I'm your host, Patro Mobili. The North American trade war has begun, as well as the concept of a plan for expansionism. Stock markets are sliding, crypto is tumbling, the dollar is surging, and oil is on the rise after the dictator imposed his long-promised tariffs on Mexico, Canada, and China. And markets don't like uncertainty or retaliation, and this is likely to be the first of many actions under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. This is Community Speaks for Monday, February the 3rd. It was on this day in 1933, Adolf Hitler announced that the expansion of Lebensraum into Eastern Europe and its ruthless Germanization are the ultimate geopolitical objectives of Nazi foreign policy. And so the U.S. dictator and his political billionaire partner Elon Musk are announcing desires for imperialist expansionism into Panama to control its canal, Greenland for its resources, financial warfare with European allies, closing down the U.S. Agency for International Development, with Musk gaining access to USAID's classified information over the weekend. So the dictator and the Secretary of State Marco Rubio have imposed an unprecedented freeze on foreign assistance that has shut down much of USAID's humanitarian, development, and security programs worldwide, compelling thousands of layoffs by aid organizations and ordered furloughs and leaves that have gutted the agency's leadership and staff in Washington. The U.S. is by far the world's largest donor of humanitarian aid, with USAID administering billions of dollars in humanitarian development and security assistance in more than 100 countries. Meanwhile, in this Black History Month, and on a brighter note, the Grammy Music Awards, televised from a fire-devastated Los Angeles, made some history. Beyonce finally won Album of the Year for a country album, making her the first Black woman to do so. And moreover, Doechii, a local artist from Tampa, Florida, wins Best Rap Album, and she calls out Tampa, Florida on the Grammy stage, saying while everyone thinks of Miami when Florida is mentioned, she gives props to local artists. And then Doechii and her dancers gave one of the best contemporary choreographed performances I have ever seen on the Grammy stage. Of course, next hour we'll get back to the music with Blaney, and it's the Music Monday. Also, Tampa Theater celebrates Black nerd culture with the annual Black movie series and a local tribute to local heroes. But right now, it's Community Speaks. You can call me, write me. Irene stands ready to take your telephone calls. You can call us by calling 813-239-9663, or you can write me at dj@wmnf.org. In Florida, a kind of civil war has broken out in the Republican Party. The Republican-controlled legislature and the Republican governor had a duel last week over an immigration act. The governor wanted expanded power to remove elected officials who did not carry out immigration law, and the legislature saying no, but passing an act named after POTUS 47. But that was quite a scene because, from what I understand, it's the home state of the president was caught up in this, what was considered a never-before-seen power struggle between Governor Ron DeSantis in the Florida legislature. It's led to insults, promises of political payback, and a mounting media offensive by the governor. The scene is unlike any since Republicans gained control of state government nearly 30 years ago, while past dust-ups between a GOP governor, and the Republican legislators have been fought over policies such as medical malpractice insurance or government subsidies for businesses. The current fight hits a top-tier issue crucial to Republican voters, and that's what they call illegal immigration. But DeSantis, in a move he said was meant to support the president's efforts to squelch illegal immigration, called legislators to come to Tallahassee on last Monday, and when they arrived, they promptly closed his special session, called their own, and passed a bill that did not contain all of the asks that the governor had requested, and legislative leaders insisted their bill was crafted after consulting with the White House. So for neither side so far is backing down, and there's a chance that the fight will drag on through the regular session that starts in early March and beyond. But more than a dozen lobbyists, consultants, and legislators have talked to the media and on varied media on how they think things will end up, but all can agree what really matters is what the president wants. So they're still kowtowing as a party to the president, who has been pretty quiet on what's happening here in Florida. He hasn't chimed in, so they really are waiting to see what he has to say here in the state of Florida. But it's an ugly scene, because out of it is still coming some of the ugliest legislature, some of the worst laws that are being passed against human beings. We look at, especially think of Haitians, that they were given temporary protected status in this country, but only to be suddenly illegal in the state of Florida, who wants to send them back to a country that is really chaotic right now, violent, controlled by gangs, doesn't have a really effective government right now. It has a council that has elected a prime minister, but there is so much violence on the streets, especially poor people are under the threat of these gangs who see themselves as self-appointed power brokers in that country. And we're going to send people back to Haiti in the middle of all of that. Meanwhile, they're reconstituting or opening Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, which is not big enough to hold the amount of people that may end up being sent there to be detained, while this country figures out what it's trying to do, whether it cares about human rights or not. And we seem to just be waiting for something to happen in this country. But people need to get proactive now, because this guy in the White House is out of control with power. He really wants to seem like he's in control, but he really is not. And he's completely chaotic, and nothing really makes sense. If you want to increase construction, manufacturing inside the United States, if you think tariffs is going to achieve that, I think that shows a complete misunderstanding of global economics, of how things work, how countries think and work things out. This is no way to force countries to act in your stead. It sounds like the United States under this guy is just showing its greed and its fears, and exploiting those fears of others, creating greater chaos, racist policies inside this country. And people were warned about it. The 77 million people who went and voted for all of this chaos were warned. Everything that we said was going to happen is coming true. We were the truth tellers. We were the ones trying to stop all of this. In the meantime, we are really struggling to wonder what's going to happen. But I'm certain that with pulling back on tariffs against Mexico this morning, POTUS looked at the markets and decided that that's a bad look for him when stock markets are tumbling, And I'm talking stock markets around the world are tumbling in the middle of all of this chaos. And he had to do some kind of a give on tariffs. And so he starts with Mexico. Mexican president decided to have a negotiation. It seems like tariffs are being used as a negotiating strategy. Mexico being on our southern borders and constantly under threat from the United States. But, to think that Mexico alone is responsible for fentanyl coming into the United States, what's really responsible for fentanyl is the market inside the United States. And until you figure out how to reach the root causes of that without jailing people, without promising prison for users as well as dealers, you're not going to solve this problem through tariffs. The idea that fentanyl, they can just snap a finger in Mexico and decide fentanyl, which is a global commodity, oftentimes coming from way as far away as China, is being manufactured, or they can stop it from coming over the border just by waving a wand or snapping their fingers, is really a spurious act spurious thinking on the part of this president, and it's just gaming the global system to get countries to bow down to him. None of that's gonna work. The increase in chaos is happening, and the increase in chaos inside this country is happening. Of course, we warned you about rising prices, and this POTUS is not even concerned about rising prices anymore, as he claimed to during the campaigns. And so with all of this happening, with oil on the rise, prices on the rise, countries promising retaliation against the tariffs that are being imposed upon them. Meanwhile, with worker shortages and the mass deportations, the only people who are happy about all of that are private prisons, or just prisons in general, who feel like they are going to benefit dramatically from having to find a place to hold these people, because Guantanamo Bay is not going to be sufficient enough to hold the numbers of people that will be snatched up, and especially when more places are under threat where it used to be safe from ICE agents, such as schools and hospitals and churches. I think hospitals are still safe at the moment, but who knows how long that's going to last, when this guy needs to make himself look like a strong man, because that's part of the image that a lot of the MAGA voters talk about and think about when they think of this guy, is that he doesn't take anything off anybody. He's a strong man, and that's what we need. But this guy is chaotic and shows just how much he does not understand about global economics. So I guess we can count our blessings on Mexico, because it shows that he can blink. As I said right from the beginning, right after the election, that the stock market will be the thing to watch in order to determine the behavior of this president. And we've seen that on display this morning with stock markets globally falling. There was a blink on Mexico, and the Mexican president, Claudia Sheinbaum, said that the planned tariffs were on hold for a month to give time for further negotiations. And I think this has a lot to do with Wall Street sparing its losses after Mexico announced its tariffs delayed. And as I said, the United States will delay its tariffs on imports by 1 month, easing some of the worries about a potential trade war. The stock market is going to be the thing, I believe, that's going to show how his behavior is going to be, how you can resist some of what the chaos that we're seeing. But Mexico will send some National Guards to his northern border. I guess that's part of the negotiation. It reinforced the northern border with 10,000 members of the National Guard immediately to stop drug trafficking from Mexico to the United States. And as I said, in particular, fentanyl. The Mexican president added that the U.S. had committed to work to stop the trafficking of high-powered weapons to Mexico. So guns trafficking to Mexico. The United States and Mexico, as I said, have agreed to suspend these tariffs. And Mexico had requested a call on Friday so that they can have this negotiation, and this is what the outcome was. So if Mexico is going to do more to stop fentanyl, the United States is going to do more to stop the trafficking of guns into Mexico, which makes that country quite dangerous, with Mexican weapons going into the hands of the cartels. And that gives them a whole lot of power over the country. And we're seeing this kind of violence throughout Central America and Haiti. And this is one of the reasons why humanity is out there trying to make its way to safer ports. And for the United States to treat people in such a way is shocking, to say the least, when this is supposed to be an advanced economy, an advanced country that can find better ways to deal with it. And, we could have put more judges along the southern border if that was such a concern. But to treat everybody as if they're criminals just for crossing the border when some people are looking for asylum is another lazy approach to governance. And one of my main gripes about, the Republican Party is that they campaign, they have a lot of words to use during the campaigns. They make a lot of promises. They know how to mimic the working class, but they are constantly making bedfellows with billionaire class. And so poor working class people think that the Republicans speak for them. We continue to think that they are better when it comes to economic issues, when they've proven over and over again they are not, especially since the Great Depression. We've seen this party play itself over and over again, good at starting wars and good at mimicking the voters in campaigns, but terrible at governance. So we're going to continue to talk about these issues, but I do want to hear from you. We are halfway almost through the program, and we're going to turn to you to see what you have to add to the conversation and where we go from here. Do you support these tariffs? Do you see it as a negotiation tactic? 813-239-9663 is the number to call. Or you can write me, DJ, at WMNF.org. You are already writing, and I'm glad to see that there's so many people who are weighing in. And so a lot of people showing some surprise at what is happening, some people not so surprised. One emailer has written that they are surprised that Trump doesn't demand that Mexico flood its citizens with American guns. And like I said, that has been part of the negotiation this morning, where U.S. guns will no longer flood, that the United States side will continue to monitor the gun trafficking from the United States into Mexico, something that we are going to hold this country hard and fast to see whether or not this is not just more bluster on the part or just an empty promise on the part of this president. 813-239-9663. 813-239-9663 is the number to call. And certainly we want to give credence to people who go to get into power by elections, but sometimes elections are just as people who have bad intentions use elections to get in power and begin to act in other ways, violate their promises or forget the good promises that they made. But we will give credence to those who win their elections. 813-239-9663. But one of the things that when we turn to the state of Florida is not a good look to see the governor interested only and giving himself the kind of power to remove elected officials from office. And that, too, is a troubling sign to see that sort of thing happen. 813-239-9663. I see quite a few of you are calling. For some reason, I'm not able to get those calls right now, but we'll continue to try to get those calls. I see a lot of you want to weigh in on what is happening in the news. And, of course, next hour, we're going to get back to the music with It's the Music Monday. Right now, you are tuned to Community Speaks here on your non-commercial radio station, WMNF. And we're going to be continuing to talk through these issues as they happen. We know that there's a lot of chaos going on, but the world is knowable. The world is knowable. We can understand and follow what is happening, what is motivating people who are in power. But it is important for us not to lose focus, because I think the idea is to gaslight us so heavily that we're not exactly sure which direction to go, what to fight for, and what to fight against. And suddenly, and as I said, a lot of people continue to get their news from social media, which is a dangerous precedent in this society. And a lot of that has only fueled to empower influencers, people who don't care to make certain that what they are writing is rooted in fact and is not liable to others, is not lying about what people are actually saying, and not making empty promises, but are actually making certain that what information that is being imparted is not misinformation. There are people who, and disinformation, which is even worse because it's a purposeful attempt at leading people wrong by giving them actual wrong information. So that's a problem that we continue to deal with. It wasn't just a problem for elections, but it's a problem in governance as well. And we're seeing it play itself out over and over again in this country. And so we're going to continue to keep an eye on all of that's happening. In the meanwhile, a lot of people remember the response to pandemics. And there's too many opportunities for outbreaks right now. And if you as we've seen, the United States under this administration trying to turn away from U.S. aid and helping other countries. I understand that there was an attempt at taking the money and vaccine away from African countries. And this is a critical time when the African continent is still dealing with certain outbreaks that hasn't grown to pandemic levels, but could. And of course, we know that the African continent suffered greatly 40 years ago under the AIDS outbreak, and we've been very it's been very crucial for the world to respond and continue to make certain that aid continues to go and to help one of the poorest continents that's dealt with these outbreaks over and over again. And if you take vaccines away, if you take treatments away, that's the collective burial of a people. And we see all kinds of misinformation when it comes to public health and the issues of the newer outbreaks that we are seeing happening. The making up of stories when it comes to not just vaccines, but especially right here in Florida, there's a contingency officer in general is making a lot of noises, using libertarian fears in politics over fluoride. And so some communities have begun to respond to that, because I think people would like thinking are in city councils around the state and are starting to take fluoride out of water, even though it was just a 0.7 inclusion of fluoride in water systems in the United States. A lot of the studies that have been cited were studies that were carried out in China, not inside the United States. And we're talking about a far larger dose of fluoride in water, over 1.5% dose, milligram a liter. And we're just talking 0.7 in the United States. And so how that leads to lowered IQ is still an open. It's a wonder that people are still trying to push that idea. But when people in power, such as the Surgeon General, talks like that, and some communities begin to react like that, that's a danger to public health. And it's something that we have to continue to talk about. 813-239-9663 is the number to hold. Hopefully we can get more of you on the line. Let's go and see what, we can get some of you on the line. Let's go and see what Jim in Riverview has to add to the conversation here on Community Speaks. I want to thank you all for calling. Here is halfway through the program. Jim, you say what here on Community Speaks?
Well, I agree with some of what you're saying, and I agree with some of what you're not saying. I believe I'm a Democrat that voted for Trump, and the reason I did was because in my heart, I believe Kamala was a complete embarrassment to our country, and I didn't believe in Biden and his son at all.
Well, how is she an embarrassment? I mean, that's just a strange word when this guy has shown his embarrassed us a lot.
She wouldn't even answer questions.
I don't understand what that means.
Every question that was offered to her, but that's not why I'm calling.
Okay, go ahead.
Like I said, I'm a Democrat and voted for Trump, and the reason I did was just because of that. Kamala, to me, was an embarrassment. But I also believe, and I think this country spoke. Everybody keeps saying, the country didn't speak. They didn't speak. I think they spoke about immigration. I believe that we need immigrants here in our country, but I also believe that they should do the proper thing and do it the right way.
Okay.
I don't disagree with what Trump's doing at all.
All right, Jim.
Cleaning up this,
what about asylum? I just wanted to ask you that before you go. What about asylum seekers?
Well, they can do that, but they got to do it legally.
What does that mean? You mean coming through a port of entry and going to a court and waiting your time in line? People are doing that, and yet they're being...
I just believe that we're missing it, and I think the country gets divided by things, like no matter who was president, I always supported our president. I didn't call him, like this morning I heard you say dictator. I don't consider our president of the United States a dictator.
Okay, well, that's true. He's not a dictator. I do apologize for that. He said that he was going to be dictator on day one. He put the word into the echelon. But, yeah, you're right. I shouldn't follow along that line because he's not. He was elected by 77%, 77 million of you.
I say that sometimes, But I just disagree with the Democrats all the way around, honestly. I think we're divided because a lot of times I don't believe that they see it the right way. They always make an excuse for it. It's just, I don't know. To me, it's a complete mess.
Yeah.
But I believe in what Trump's doing. I believe that he's trying to clean it up. I believe that, like the federal government employees, he wants them to all go back to work. I believe people should work in their workplace. I don't necessarily believe they should be at home working. And I believe it needs cleaned up. I do believe that he needs to clean house in there and get rid of a lot of the water.
All right. Well, Jim, thank you for your call. A lot of people this is a brave new world, don't have to be in the office to work. They shouldn't be fired, their jobs, their livelihoods threatened because of return to work orders. So maybe that'd be a subject of another show. But, if you think that Kamala Harris was an embarrassment, which I don't. I think she's a historic figure. She's still a historic. She was the first black woman to reach the office of vice president, and being a woman is in high office in this misogynistic society is still a feat, and I think she should be celebrated. The party itself is celebrating Kamala Harris. They've been having their meetings in terms of trying to pick a new leadership. The person they chose is a person who believes in small donors, not big billionaire donors, to the party. And the wing of the party that picked the new leader of the party they were very supportive, continue to be very supportive of Kamala Harris. So her political future is still bright despite what we just saw unfold in the election. Go ahead, Gary, going to St. Pete. You want to add what to Community Speaks?
Oh, so many things. I just kind of want to speak to the fentanyl thing. I mean, you're absolutely right. You have to cut off the demand side. You know, the people in this country that want that. That's why there's a market for it.
Mm-hmm.
And it just makes no sense to me. It's a horse tranquilizer. I mean, who wants...
Right.
It makes no sense to me. I mean, I've done my share of, I went to college. I did acid, mushrooms, peyote, hash, all kinds of things, but I was never a pill junkie. And I've seen people like that. And they sit on the couch with their head down, they drool, and then they have the nerve the next day to go, man, that was good stuff. I'm like, how would you know?
Right.
How would you even know? You weren't even there. But I just, so many things. And that last caller, please, he's no Democrat. Or if he is, he's a Joe Manchin Democrat. So keep doing what you're doing. Speak truth to power. And Kamala Harris, in the short time she had to run, she did damn good.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Nobody's done that before. 3 months.
No, exactly.
Against a guy who's been running for basically 4 years.
I voted for her, and I would again. But, oh, my God.
She's the embarrassment. No.
His millions of things he's trying to do. Civil service. Is he going to go out and pick up garbage?
He's never even picked up behind himself.
J.D. Dad's going to go out and round up rabid dogs?
Yeah, right.
I mean, come on,
He's
man.
an essential work, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they call them essential workers, and then they're going to fire them?
Right.
I'm just so disgusted. If I could, I'd move to New Zealand. I might start a GoFundMe page.
Gary, I think we need you right here in St. Pete, but I understand.
I mean, I'm trying, I went to the Women's March, and I went to the Climate March, and I'm 65 years old, so I'm kind of worn out.
Yeah.
But, I don't know.
Sometimes we just have to tune some of these things out, but don't tune out WMNF, our Community Speaks.
I know, I try, I love your show. I love all the shows. I love Nadine Smith. And, it's just, it's so exasperating.
Yeah,
I've gotten
it is.
to the point where when the NPR news comes on, I turn it off and I wait till the music comes back on.
Yeah. Understood. Thank you, Gary. Thank you for calling. Keep your head up.
Thank you for what you do. Yeah, you too.
Bye now.
Bye.
And people are writing, DJ at WMNF.org. The last writer did say, people saying, I'm a Democrat, and then parroting Republican talking points would come out of the closet as Republicans, or perhaps more accurately as racists. We can get on with political discourse in this country. Calling for more honesty from people. 813-239-9663. Let's go to Clearwater. See what Chris has to say. Go ahead, Chris.
Well, Billy, I hope we can have an intellectual conversation here regarding what you mentioned, that Florida Surgeon General Dr. Joseph Ladapo now discouraging fluoride, and he only did it, I think, a bit too late, 2 months after the federal court ruling, which was last September, and Ladapo did it in November. The federal court ruling last September against the EPA, who is the defendant, where Senior Judge Edward Chen wrote in the ruling, quote, the court finds that fluoridation of water at 0.7 milligrams per liter, or that's 7 parts per million, which is the EPA's current recommended level. He writes, the level presently considered optimal in the United States poses an unreasonable risk of reduced IQ in children.
Based on what, Chris?
Pardon me?
Based on what?
Well, based on the previous month, which was August of last year, the National Toxicology Program's report, which, as I told you on Sunday yesterday, that took 7 years. On the Sunday forum I mentioned this. It took 7 years for this lawsuit to produce the National Toxicology Program's report, which was a meta-analysis of 74 studies around the world.
74 studies around the world.
Last January 6th, they published that in the Journal of American Medical Association Pediatrics. The study is entitled Fluoride Exposure and Children's IQ Score, a Systematic Review and Meta-Analysis, where they find that the IQ drops 1.63 points for every 1 part per million of fluoride.
I'm not sure I'm buying any of it, but maybe we're going to have some of these these people who have done these studies on our two sides. We just don't have enough time to deal with it today, but the issue I was raising was the issue of public health, and you cite studies that are worldwide and often not peer-reviewed. This is dangerous. Just more libertarian fear-mongering. Let's go and see what Jeanette has to say in Clearwater. Jeanette, you say what?
Hi. I just couldn't believe that man was saying he was a Democrat. There's no way a Democrat thinks that way. I mean, I'm sorry. It just doesn't make any sense to me. If you're a Democrat, you don't think there's nothing wrong with what's going on right now. And that's what he said.
Right.
I don't see anything wrong with what's going on right now. Like, even if you were a Republican, you should see something wrong with what's going on right now.
Right.
I mean, there's so much wrong with everything since he took office. Even before he took office, we saw so much crap going on, so much lying, so much conning, propaganda. I mean, now it's like everybody's just like, okay, we'll just accept that he's there now and we'll just deal with whatever. And, if it's not me getting kicked out of the country, then I don't care.
Right.
Well, what the heck? I mean, what kind of place have we become?
Right. And you don't care what happens to these people in the meantime.
Well, I mean, to say something like, there's a complete Republican statement to say, if these people are illegal, they should get out. Well, how many people are really illegal that they're kicking out?
And the idea of come the right way.
Well, 50%, I saw that it said 50% of the people that they are removing from the country that they're deporting aren't criminals. Like they said they were going to send the criminals, get rid of the criminals, and that new law that they made with the man who killed a girl, the guy, I don't know where he was from, but illegal guy who killed a girl.
Right.
And Haley something act. I don't know what.
I know Laney something, but I know who you're talking about.
Anyway, but they are just going to use that new law to say everybody's a criminal who's in here, but not everybody who's in this country is a criminal who is from another country.
Apparently, the numbers are far different. There are more U.S.-born criminals than those who have come here. So, yeah.
Look at half the people that Trump has totally said it's fine for them to be in this country. How did they come across? By paying a lot of money.
Right.
His wife's family.
And plus the visa program.
There's a double standard everywhere that's going on. You know, the rich people are going to get richer. We know the poor people are going to get poorer. We know that there's going to be a hell of a lot more violence now. And people are going to struggle more, and all these stupid people, and I'm sorry, they are stupid. The stupid people that voted for him, they say, inflation was ridiculous under Biden. Well, what do they think it's going to be like now?
Right. And they were warned. They were warned about all this.
There's no excuse. Even if for me, I'm so angry that even if a Republican says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I messed up, I shouldn't have voted for him," I still am not going to forgive. Look what they've done. Look what they put a dictator in office who is going to destroy the country. He's kicking decent people out of government jobs right now. Mm-hmm. He's canceling anything that has anything to do with women's rights, minority rights. Black History Month, forget it. Yeah. You know, it's like they don't care about anything but white males. And that's why most white males, even black males, vote for him. Because it's a macho thing.
And it's aspiration,
Yeah, it's aspiration. It's like, oh, well, we can't be weak. We can't look weak. We have to have somebody like Trump in office who's so strong. Well, now all we have is a dictator who's corrupt and mean and conniving, and Musk who's worse than Trump. I mean, I don't even see a way out of it anymore. And when everybody's running around saying, well, be positive and look for the good, and, you know, where is the good? Tell me.
The good is only in the pushback. Only in the resistance.
We don't have any kind of protesting. If everybody's afraid to protest, if everybody's afraid to stand up for what they believe because they could go to jail, because we're going to end up having political prisoners here in this country just like they do in every other country these days. I'm just thinking, you know, the man who said he wanted to go to New Zealand, I'm thinking, why not go to New Zealand?
Right.
If they'll let you in.
And the pardons of all the January 6 people, but and try to
disgusting.
Right.
How disgusting is that? I mean, here we have this doesn't make any sense to me, right? We have a president. He's not my president, but we have a president who is doing everything. I guess he's doing a lot to help Israel, right? But then he lets out white supremacists out of jail that went through the legal process and were convicted, but they are those people that go out and kill Jews. Right. That's their goal.
And that's your law and order campaign, so they...
Right. And the law and order campaigns, that's a joke. I mean, everything is a joke with him. It's fine if we yell and scream about gay people and people in your schools raping your kids, which is another lie, you know, or going into the wrong restroom or whatever. But he lets out 1 million people who are going to go around killing people, who gathered and are like the Ku Klux Klan. Only, you know, they have shaved heads now, or they call themselves Proud Boys or whatever they call themselves. And he says, well, those people are fine people.
Yeah, patriots.
They don't deserve to be in jail.
I mean, I think the contradictions are laid bare. Thank you, Jeanette, for calling.
You're very welcome.
813-239-9663. I want to take as many of your calls as possible. A lot of you are waiting on the line. Keep waiting. We're going to get to you. William in Clearwater, you say what?
Hey, how are you?
Pretty good.
You know, I don't really believe that you guys understand any of this stuff. It's a one-way conversation, especially with the talk host. If you don't believe in it, you don't let them talk, but you let Jeanette, who is some nutcase, run on.
Thank you, William. Thank you, William. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. You sound more like the nutcase. Ken in Tampa, you want to add what to this conversation?
Yes, sir. I'm trying to be productive with the conversation for everybody. Jeanette has her opinion, obviously, and I thought it was kind of humorous when she said maybe going to New Zealand would be a good idea if they let you in.
She said, why not?
I think the biggest problem with all this is both sides, Democrat and Republican, put their faith in politicians that they're not going to tell you the truth. They're not going to do anything but better themselves for when it comes down to what they're doing.
But isn't that a broad statement? Some of them tell the truth. Some of them really try hard to be honest with the American people, and they're the ones who will get turned out of office, not the liars, not the ones who are clearly lying and breaking promises.
Well, I mean, aren't we all painting with a broad brush when she says anybody who voted for somebody is stupid?
Well, I mean, you were warned. Everybody, thank you, Ken. You were warned. I want to get as many callers as I possibly can. And talking in circles is not my thing. Madeira Beach. Let's go to Madeira Beach and see what Sharon has to add to this conversation. Go ahead, Sharon. You say what?
Hi. I just feel like Trump is gaslighting us. He makes negative, shocking things every day. He's working overtime to do nasties, one right after another, just shooting them out. And I can't even remember things that happened 2 or 3 weeks ago because he just keeps doing it. And I do not appreciate what he's doing. He's putting our country in danger. His bullying of imagine if you had 12 guys and one of them was nasty to everybody, threatened them, pulled their strings all the time, never collaborated. Who do you think's going to end up at the bottom of the pile? We are, because Trump is doing awful things to our allies, and it makes no sense at all. And if he's pulling all of the people that are here illegally, regardless of, you have good people who are hardworking, just scraping by. They may be illegal, but they never caused any trouble, and they gave service to this country, and he's just ruining it.
Yeah. There's no rhyme and reason to it except, how you bow down to the policies, whether you're a country or an individual. And
he's endangering us. And I don't know, I'm sorry, but I do think anyone who voted for him, their brain did take a vacation that day. And Kamala Harris was a totally decent, hardworking woman on our side. He was just a lying, immoral weirdo.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I just can't, think back to that campaign and see how people saw what they claimed they saw then. That was just, no rhyme and reason to it.
No, it's a rough 4 years, and I don't know how it's going to change, but everyone needs to get out and vote for a Democratic Congress, because that's our only hope in a couple of years.
Yeah. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you for your call in Madeira Beach. Mm-hmm. And one emailer you can email me, dj@wmnf.org, said that, the comparison to Nazi Germany was relevant. And that's the reason why I thought it's because this is the same day in history that's happening. If we see this history, I'm certain the right wing in this country is seeing this history. People like Stephen Miller, who in the Trump administration is seeing this history. And as I said, it was on this day that the Nazi regime and Adolf Hitler announced the expansion of what they call Lebensraum. And that's a sort of, that's a German word to talk about what, was a common thing between 1890s and the 1940s with Germans, and that is expansionism. That's just another word for expansionism, a sort of German ethnic nationalist expansionism that they were announcing on this day in 1933. And we're seeing some of that same type language coming through in this administration. So it's relevant. It is relevant. That's why I mentioned it. I thought it was a necessary note to make on this day, February the 3rd. Going back to the telephone lines here on Community Speaks, just the last few minutes. Fred, you say what? Thank you for calling from Michigan.
Yeah, you guys let me call in, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I was listening to your comments about fluoride, the caller, and the U.S. toxicology report. So I brought it up on the NIH and reviewed it. And it's a meta-analysis. And it said, yes, there is evidence that high doses of fluoride are dangerous. But it also concluded that the fluoride in the water system is not proven to be dangerous. There's not enough evidence to that. And it does call on the FDA to regulate, not remove.
Right.
I sent you that article, and if it comes to you on Critical Speaker, I think you're going to get it.
Okay.
On your email, and I'm sure you're capable of looking it up. But the other thing I'd say on fascism is I just read on Benito Mussolini, who wrote the playbook on fascism that Hitler used, and Franco. And it was him that created his own army, the Black Shirts. And he was the one who silenced the news media, created political prisoners. And Franco did the same thing. They killed about 10,000 from what I read. And this is out of Madeleine Albright's book on fascism.
Pretty well-spoken person, pretty well-researched if you get a chance to read it. You know, the number of political prisoners they either imprisoned or killed. Mm-hmm. So those are the playbooks, and these guys, they scare me. They really do.
Yeah.
I do wonder about some of the people's news sources, and it's up here, there, throughout our country when they say they never saw Kamala Harris, avoid all, speak, or she avoided all questions. I heard her say a lot.
Me too.
I heard her talk about her economic programs, her social programs. Maybe they didn't like what she said.
Right, clearly.
Okay, I'll let you go. Thank you for the call, but the EPA and that report do not say remove fluoride.
Right. That's the libertarian thing.
Okay.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you for calling.
Well, yeah, let me know what you think. Thank you.
I will read it, and I will let you know.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye now. And of course, next hour, we're going to get back to the music with It's the Music Monday. So stay tuned for that. And I want to thank you all for your calls and emails. One emailer has written, Mary wrote, first, I voted for Harris. Second, no one voted for Elon Musk. Third, about a third of Americans didn't vote. And four, no one received the mandate. So I couldn't agree more, Mary. That is exactly what happened. And another emailer says Trump even refuses to be positive when he makes comments at Christmas and New Year's and the messages that he sends out. And also in the middle of a tragedy, he tries to go ahead and push more racist ideas against diversity and inclusion programs, equity and inclusion programs. And so doubling down on the racist Project 2025. And it's all about gaslighting. But, we have to prepare for the chaos, the world of chaos that is being created. And as I said, take a look at how the stock market reacts, because that might help regulate this president. So thank you for tuning in. There's so much more to say, so much more to write about. I know some of you are still waiting on the line. I wish there was a way I could put you through to be recorded, to record your comments. Maybe we'll figure out a way to do that in the coming days. But I'd like to, maybe throw one more in. Simone from Lakeland, you want to add one before we go? I got a few more minutes left.
Yeah, real quick. It's Simon from Lakeland.
Simon.
On the Lebensraum, actually, that is not an expansionist view in the sense of your example, because that was a cultural expansion.
Okay, Simon, thank you very much. Sorry about that. That's exactly what it is. It's an expansion. You might call it a cultural expansion, but it's still expansion, and it's still being talked about today, read about today, and we're seeing parallels with this administration. So we have to keep our eyes wide open. Thank you, Simon. Keep it tuned. Up next, of course, we're going to get local news. We're going to get the scoop. Locally produced news right here at WNF, and then we're going to get back to the music with Blaney Whalen. So keep it tuned right here all day to WMNF. Thank you for joining me. My name is Patrick Mobili. This has been Community Speaks. WMNF Tampa.
Serious note, this joint ain't even done yet. Probably gonna be one of my favorite ones. Where all them stars at? Yeah. Okay. Ayatollah. Yeah. pop some food. Starvation. Third world countries at war. Starvation. 3 billionaires can cure. Starvation. Africa's barely alive. Starvation. The monkeys still getting they drive.